Imagine this. A freezing morning, rain lashing the face of a little 7-year-old girl, messy hair, soaked to the skin, clutching a sick little brother in her arms. Sofia stops in front of the most luxurious mansion in the neighborhood, looks at the intercom and takes a deep breath. It's the last place she has the nerve to ask for help. Inside, Helena, a millionaire known for never forgiving anyone, watches everything on the cameras, annoyed. But when Sofia whispers, almost in tears, "Ma'am, my little brother is starving," something broken inside Helena starts to stir. At the gate, two kinds of pain meet, a child who's lost everything and a woman who no longer believes in anyone. Just imagine, what will happen when two people so wounded look each other in the eye for the first time? Will Helena send Sofia away, or will she surprise everyone in a way nobody ever expected? Stay with me, because this story is about to turn everything upside down. The day dawned with the sky completely hidden behind heavy, leaden clouds. The air felt trapped, stifling, even though it was winter. There was no sunlight at all to warm anything. Sofia was there, pressing Miguel tight against her chest. Her little brother was so small now, he was almost weightless, but the warmth of his body gave her a flicker of hope, something solid she still had left to protect. Her hair was sticking to her forehead, already wet from the relentless drizzle. Cold drops trickled down between her shoulders and inside her tattered clothes. The whole city seemed to be asleep, silent, no one in the streets, not a single soul to see them. Sofia looked around, searching for anywhere they could take shelter from the cold. She barely knew where she was, just that here, the houses were different, high walls, everything spotless, gates locked tight like prison bars. So unlike the streets where she grew up. Anger rose hot inside her, that bitter feeling of never being welcome anywhere. She walked slowly, feet stiff with cold, each step hurting on the chilled stones. She had no shoes, and neither did Miguel, his little toes bluish, barely moving. She did her best to wrap him with her skirt, but it was nothing, just a thin scrap of torn cloth. At one point, Sofia stopped beneath a crooked tree, hunched over, just to breathe. Miguel uttered a soft whimper. All he wanted was to sleep, but if he did there, who knew if he'd ever wake? Sofia's stomach growled so loud it made her ashamed. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten anything but stale bread or scraps from the market. The pain pressed harder whenever she saw her brother's little face. He curled up, eyes sunken, just watching her. Sometimes he tried to smile, even without any energy, so as not to scare her. That did something to her, something nobody else ever understood. Right there in the rain, Sofia thought of her parents. She felt a hole open up in her chest, deep and wide, as if all the good in her life had burned away in the fire, together with the house, the clothes, her dolls, everything. The foul smell of smoke never left her nose. Sometimes it felt like it came back, stinging her eyes. She remembered the heat, people screaming, her mother's shriek, and then the silence that followed, the nothingness. After that, all that was left was her and her little brother. Since that day, Sofia had learned how to beg. Beg without saying much. Beg without meeting anyone's eyes. Anything to avoid shame, to avoid feeling anything at all. But that day, in the rain, it wasn't just for her. It was for Miguel. He didn't even have the strength to cry anymore. He was too weak even to complain. That sent Sofia into a new kind of panic. She kept her eye on a tall, black gate up ahead. She'd passed 3 other houses before that. Not one even had a doorbell, let alone someone at the window to hear a lost child's plea. But the smell of bread drifted from somewhere, almost overwhelming her. Maybe it was just her imagination, the hunger screaming so loud. She felt like giving up, finding an alley or a corner somewhere, lying down, forgetting the world at least long enough for her feet to get warm again. But she couldn't. She was the one who had to take care of Miguel. If she came away empty-handed that day, he would get worse. She could tell, just by looking. They'd been through hard nights before, but his face was different now. He was paler, lips turning white, skin sagging, his belly swelling up like a sad, old birthday balloon. Sofia tried to keep him awake, singing softly to chase hunger away. She sang her mother's lullaby, the one about the little bird that made its nest on the windowsill. Miguel cracked open an eye, gave her a toothless smile. It was the saddest thing Sofia had ever seen. Suddenly the rain got heavier. The wind gusted, made the tree creak. The cold seemed to pierce through her clothes, pushing into her skin, freezing her to the bone. Sofia wanted to cry too, but she swallowed the tears. She breathed deep, over and over, until she could stay steady. She bit her lip, waited for her head to stop spinning. She looked up at the sky for a moment and whispered, "Help us, Mama, just for today, just a little, please." Carefully, she lifted Miguel, settled him better in her arms. Her arms ached from his weight, but leaving him behind was unthinkable. She walked toward the edge of the big black gate ahead. The gate was so high, she couldn't really see the garden behind. There was an electric fence all around, a little red light blinking in one corner. Sofia felt scared, that deep, old kind of fear, of places you're never allowed to go, places that aren't meant for people like her. But looking at Miguel, fear didn't matter anymore. She pressed her cheek to her brother's hair, breathing in quickly, just to remind herself he was still hers, still alive. The rain washed over both of them, dripping down Sofia's cheeks, mixing with tears she didn't even realize she was crying. Her hands started to shake. Her whole body felt on the verge of collapse. Somewhere, a car horn blared in the distance, a dog barked at a nearby house. Everything else was just rain pounding the gate, cold air, and a silence heavy with desperation. Sofia looked again at the gate, looked at the cameras. She knew someone could chase her away, yell from inside, send out the security guards. Even so, she stood there, taking deep breaths over and over, convincing herself she had to try, even if this was the last time. She hugged her brother tightly, feeling a tiny spark of courage grow inside her, driven by the bigger terror of watching Miguel suffer more. There, under the stinging rain, Sofia felt she had nothing left to lose. And yet, some tiny part of her still believed something else might happen. Just a piece of bread, just a chance. But right then, everything around her was cold, silent, and that gate seemed like the biggest barrier in the world. Sofia stopped right in front of the black, rain-slick gate, shining with water and fear. The wall was enormous, bigger than any she'd seen before. It felt as though no one could ever cross it, not even the thought of someone poor. It was strange, because on the other side of the street everything looked different. So quiet, neatly trimmed trees, the earthy smell of wet ground. By her side, all she heard was the rain drumming on the plastic trash bag filled with the little she carried. She hugged Miguel tighter. He was slumped against her chest, limp from the cold, breathing in short, shivery gasps, his hair plastered to his face. His little body shuddered, and every time his chin knocked into her ribs, her fear grew. Raindrops made patterns on the gate. At one point, she caught sight of her own face reflected in the metal, so small, lips cracked, brow streaked with mud. She tried to smooth down her wet hair with her dirty hand, but only managed to smear more dirt around. Sofia stared at the round cameras. They were fixed there, blinking with a little red light. They looked like the eyes of a wild animal, just waiting for her to make a move. She shut her eyes tight, wishing, just maybe, that someone kind was watching on the other side. But nothing in this world was guaranteed. The cold made her bones ache. The wind tore down the avenue of trees, sent trash bags flying, rattled the sidewalk. The smell of bread from some far-off bakery made it all hurt more. Her stomach seemed to howl, and she squeezed Miguel as if she can split what little warmth she had with him. She knew that mansion by reputation. Since she was little, other kids had always said, that's where the richest lady in town lives. She never talks to anyone. She has vicious dogs, electric wires on the walls, and you can't even ask for water. No one ever dared approach that gate. It was an unwritten rule of the rich folks' neighborhood. Even so, Sofia was there. Because desperation speaks louder than fear. She watched a car drive by slowly, a lady inside wrinkling her nose at them like she'd caught the smell of something rotten. Sofia wanted to shrink away, disappear completely, but that wasn't possible. Either she tried, or Miguel wouldn't make it. With her spare hand, she fished in the pocket of her shabby coat. Empty, just crumpled paper and a lost button. No food. The intercom was a silver button by the gate, a bit too high for her. Sofia stood on tiptoe, but with Miguel in her arms it was nearly impossible. She tried once, twice, couldn't quite reach, and the urge to give up weighed as much as her nearly naked body. She took a deep breath, felt the cold air hit her chest, ache in her lungs. She almost thought she could smell her parents. Her mother always said courage was closing your eyes and doing it even while you're scared. Her father taught her to hold Miguel's hand when things got bad. Remembering them felt like sinking into a bottomless hole, but somehow, it gave her strength. They'd done everything for her brother, for her. Now, it was her turn. Miguel whimpered with hunger. Sofia felt a tear run down. She didn't even try to wipe it away. She couldn't tell what was rain and what was sadness on her face anymore. For a second, she considered leaving, searching for hope on a different corner, begging for scraps outside a bakery. But she knew she hardly got anything that way. Most people just yelled, or ignored her, or walked a wide berth to avoid getting close. Here, at least there was a faint hope. She shivered head to toe. The cold now stung in a new way. Her teeth chattered, her legs went weak. Only the silver button gleamed, waiting. Sofia pressed her forehead to the lowest part of the gate, felt the freezing metal on her bone. A drop of rain splashed straight into her eye, burned. She wiped it away with the back of her hand, shut her eyes again. Please, God, she prayed, as sincerely as a little girl can ask. Ah, how hard it was to be a child in this world. She breathed in Miguel's hair, the last trace of childhood, of a burnt house. Their whole lives now fit in a single hug, a simple plea, just some bread. Maybe the lady of the mansion wasn't home. Maybe no one would even come. Maybe the mean dogs would scare her off again, like they had at other houses. All those wounds from being turned away stayed open, though they hurt a little less each time, because she'd just about lost hope anyway. But Miguel needed her. So, not even thinking it was different from any other house, she lifted her finger. Her hand was trembling. The intercom felt as heavy as 100 bricks. Sofia peered through the bars, looking for any sign of movement. Inside, huge trees, rain puddles, a neat garden made prettier by the downpour. Even with all that wealth, it seemed so empty. It was like silence lived there. In the deep background, behind the glass doors, a shadow appeared. Elegant, rigid. For a moment, before even touching the intercom, Sofia felt someone watching her. Her heart sped up. She bit her lip, closed her eyes. Thought of her mother, of warm bread, of happy days. Thought of sick Miguel, of his pleading eyes. Go on, Sofia, she whispered to herself, so quietly. She pressed the button with her knuckles, hesitant, as if asking permission. In the rich neighborhood's vast quiet, the buzz of the intercom sounded like thunder. The noise made her jump. Fear surged with it. She waited, caught between cold and shame. The intercom never usually took long, but that day it felt endless. And, in that silent world of grown-ups and neglect, Sofia felt she was risking her very last hope. While Miguel slept in her arms, she braced herself for anything. She was ready for a no. But she stayed put. Because sometimes a child has to be stronger than the world that wants to force her out. On the other side of the gate, Helena approached, and no one could have guessed what that small request was about to awaken. The intercom was big and cold, its voice metallic and distant. Sofia lifted her face, hair stuck to her forehead from the rain, and waited a few seconds. The cold brought a heavy feeling, like every drop falling on her tired back made the weight she carried that much greater. She glanced down at Miguel, huddled at her leg, eyes half open, half closed, trying not to shiver more than he already was. For a moment, nothing came out of her mouth. She was afraid her voice would fail, that the intercom wouldn't work, or worse, that the same meanness as all the other gates would blare from some invisible speaker. Her stomach hurt, not just from hunger, but from dread. The finger still pressing the button was numb with cold. The rain fell harder, slanting, splattering the black gate in sharp bursts. The noise drowned out any hope of hearing someone coming. The silence made everything seem harder. Sofia's throat tightened. Deep down, she tried to summon her mother's voice, the smell of fresh bread on mornings she could barely even remember, the sound of Miguel's laughter, back when hunger and emptiness hadn't taken over. But now there was only rain, wind slashing, bare feet thick with cold mud. Her hand slipped from the button and dangled there, open, a silent plea. She glanced again at Miguel, curled up. Even his small belly rumbled, loud, a cry for help from inside. Miguel gripped the hem of her dress, searching for shelter, but saying nothing. It had been ages since he spoke, too hungry, too frightened. The intercom made a static crackle, a click. Sofia's heart leapt, but she didn't know if it was hope or fear. She licked her lips and whispered, barely loud enough to hear. She wanted to say, good morning, please, some nice words her mother had taught her. But all that came out was a short, broken, knotted sound stuck in her throat. Miss, please, just some bread, for my little brother. Her voice shook, as if every word was too heavy for a girl her age. You could hear the tears, the despair choked down. Her words faded into a trembling sigh. The wind picked up, snatching away what little warmth remained. Inside, only silence. Sofia stood very still, hardly breathing. The fear of hearing no reply was even worse than the fear of being yelled at. She imagined the grand lady of the house, maybe watching it all on camera, maybe thinking kids like her only wanted to make trouble, dirty her pretty sidewalk, bring danger. That's how it was at every big house, always suspicion, never compassion. Time seemed to stop. The cold burned instead of stung. Sofia's knees were red, her hands purple from gripping Miguel, trying to shield him from the wind. She wanted to peel off her brother's wet clothes, dry him off, give him hot tea. But the world was too big, too indifferent, and Sofia felt like an invisible speck, trying not to disappear completely. Miguel's stomach rumbled again. What little hope she had blurred with fear that this door would stay shut forever. Sofia blinked hard to wipe away tears, but it was too late. One rolled hot down her cheek, mixing with icy rain. A few cars rolled by, spraying water up onto the curb. The smell of wet earth brought back memories of better days at the old house, when it rained and her mother baked bread with the last of the month's money. Now, no flour, no mother. Just her little brother, a thin hug, the big world against them. The intercom stayed silent. The little girl's pounding, frightened heartbeat was almost audible. Sofia drew a shaky breath, angry with herself for crying there. But she had no strength left to hold anything back. All she could do was beg, again and again, even softly, even if nobody heard properly. "Ma'am, it's just my little brother is so hungry." This time it came out as just a faint whisper, as if she were talking only to her own fear. Inside, she just wanted to give up, run away from all fancy gates, tall fences, blinking cameras that seemed to say, "You don't belong here." She stayed where she was, blood nearly chilled out of her legs, waiting for a different kind of voice from the other side. But for now, only that heavy silence answered, the kind that really hurts, because inside there was light, the smell of warm food, people, life, but outside, just the two of them, clinging together, listening to rain scrape the gate and scrape at their hearts. Sofia didn't want Miguel to starve. She thought about that, really thought it, scared by the size of it. She knew she was at the limit, that maybe this was the last house to try, the last hope in this neighborhood full of fancy cars and hurried people. Inside, her fear grew so enormous she even forgot about her own cold. All she wanted was a piece of bread, just a crumb, anything. She wanted her mother's hand again, to hear her soft voice saying, "It'll pass, honey, hang on." But all she had now was herself, 7 years old, whispering impossible hopes to a giant iron gate, praying some miracle would cross those bars, that silence, that whole entire world. Helena sat on the edge of her enormous sofa, tight fist gripping the TV remote. Beside her, her coffee had already gone cold. She no longer drank it, just forgot. From the back of the living room, the clock ticked dryly with each second, but she didn't notice. Her gaze was fixed on the monitor, the screen fuzzed with static from the rain outside. The image told no lies, a little girl, so thin she looked ready to vanish, standing pressed up against the gate. Hair plastered to her forehead, clothes so thin they barely counted as clothes. There was a dark stain on her shorts, probably mud. Behind her, a child's shadow on the curb, even smaller and barely moving. That made Helena look closer. She frowned. Breathed deep, the kind of tired breath that comes before the day's even begun. Inside the house, everything seemed warmer, protected. The smell of fresh-baked bread still lingered in the air. The cook always left the table set, even though Helena wouldn't touch the food today. Watching, Helena felt a strange itch, almost a prickling inside. She remembered, unwillingly, her own son. That pale face, forever sleeping at the hospital. She swallowed hard. She hated those memories, but sometimes they were inescapable, times like this, when everything came rushing back like a punch to the stomach. The girl on the screen didn't make a scene, didn't shout, didn't slam at the gate. She just rested her chin on her chest and waited, hand clinging to the intercom. Helena replayed the girl's words in her mind. "Miss, please, just some bread. For my little brother." The voice was hoarse, raw with cold and exhaustion, nearly lost to the wind. Helena had fielded countless requests at that intercom, people offering to clean the yard, sell rags, beg for charity. She'd always turned them away, always pressed the button to cut them off. But today, even though she wanted to, she couldn't lift her hand to the button. On the screen, she saw the girl's trembling lips, wide eyes filled not with anger, but with fear. Scared of scolding, of silence, of nothing changing. She noticed the tear that slid quickly down, almost hidden by the rain. Helena felt a strange tightness in her chest. She wished she didn't feel anything, but she did. Tired eyes recognized something there, that waiting, that glimmer of courage that only comes when you have nothing left to lose. Helena slumped deeper into the couch, ran her hand through her hair, tried to breathe, whispered to herself, not again, she didn't want to care. Tried to remember every bad time, every freeloader, how important it was to keep her distance from other people's pain. But just for a second, all she could see was the girl, those big eyes, just like her own son's when he was little, needing comfort without ever saying a word. The house was too quiet. Only outside, the wind battered the windows, whistled between the cracks, made the garden tree sway. It was odd, because Helena normally liked the silence. But today, with that child on the screen, silence hurt. She ached to scream, to ask God why so many people suffered like this. But she had lost the faith for questions like that. Time dragged, felt like everything had stopped. The clock kept ticking dryly, the rain beat down harder. Helena glimpsed the intercom blinking, the camera's image almost fogged up. The little girl didn't even try to shield herself anymore. She just let the rain fall, huddling in her own arms. She stumbled a little, but wouldn't leave. Helena squeezed the remote again, thinking of just turning off the screen. But she didn't. She was angry at herself for not being strong enough to ignore it. She heard again, in her mind, "Ma'am, my little brother is starving." This time, the memory was sharper, more insistent. She didn't want to recall the hospital, the stink of antiseptic, her son fading in bed, but her chest ached just as much. Hurt deep. Not even time could fill that hole. The woman everyone knew to be cold and proud started to tremble just slightly. She shut her eyes. Her wrinkled face wasn't crying, not quite, but almost. She thought about how good it felt to have someone to look after. Remembered when the house was full of laughter, toys strewn across the floor, the smell of chocolate in late afternoons. Now it was nothing but the relics of memory, empty chairs, a locked room. She missed loving someone so much it scared her. On the screen, the little boy finally moved, put a hand in his stomach and doubled over, as if in real pain. That nearly finished Helena off. She breathed deep, rubbed her face, swore under her breath. The whole world seemed set on her being the hard one, the woman who never bends, who faces every problem with a stony glare. But she was tired of playing that part. Sometimes she longed to tear the whole mask off, blow it all up, but she didn't know how. Nobody ever taught her how to be different. Deep down, she could feel that old urge to march out to the gate just to send the girl away, play her part, clear her conscience without getting involved. But this time, for some reason she couldn't explain, it felt impossible. She just stared at the screen like she was watching a fragment of her own past, the pain left inside her, the fear of losing someone all over again. The rain thickened, started to drip onto the porch. Helena stood up slowly, looked at the living room door, listened to the hush down the hall. Her heart beat fast, thudding beneath her robe. She tried hard not to cry, not to let herself get swept away again by feelings. But it was no use. She was already touched, it was already inside her chest. At last, Helena gathered her courage. She grabbed the gate key, swiped at her eyes to erase any trace of tears. No one was allowed to see her weakness, she thought. She gave the monitor one last look, saw the little girl almost out of hope. She sighed, drew a slow breath and braced herself. She would go down, even without knowing what to say or do. But for the first time in years, she felt something loosen inside, a bit of kindness long hidden, and maybe, just maybe, it would be worth listening to what that girl had to say. The steps were cold beneath her feet, but Helena didn't even notice. She gripped the banister tight, as if each stair weighed 3 times as much. From upstairs, the intercom's weak voice seemed so far away. Just bread, just a plea, but it still throbbed in her head. The silence inside her house was almost a physical burden, even colder than the rain at the windows. A faint scent of coffee and old things hung in the air, no sign of life, nothing of children for many years. The security guard had already backed away, pretending it wasn't his problem. Helena's heart was pounding, but her face was a mask, cold, serious, elegant. Her hair pulled back, clothes immaculate, each step marked by a distance she built on her own, out of grief. She unlocked the gate in silence, heard the sound, a metal groaning, slicing through the hush. On the other side, Sofia shrinks beneath the awning. Her hands are purple from the cold. Her feet are dirty, scraped, trembling. Heavy, wet locks of hair curve over her face. Helena wonders how a child so tiny manages to stand it all. She soon notices that the girl arranges herself carefully, as if trying to make herself even smaller, maybe invisible. Sofia glances upward, and for one suspended second, their eyes meet. Time seems to hold its breath. All you can hear is the soft patter of rain on the leaves nearby, and the hurried hum of cars on the street behind. Inside the mansion, everything stays the same. Out here, the world is made of ice. Helena leans down a little but doesn't crouch. She inhales, letting out her breath as if she's about to say something gentle, but it comes out only as, "What do you want here, girl? Who told you to knock?" The tone is firm, verging on irritated, more for protection than any real desire to send her away. Sofia feels the impact. Her shoulders fall even further. She swallows hard and only then opens her mouth. Her voice barely makes a sound. Bread, ma'am. Just some bread. She hesitates, scrapes together some courage she didn't know she had, and goes on, my brother's starving. I swear, ma'am, we don't want anything but bread. Sophia's eyes are red and brimming, but she holds herself together. She doesn't cry. Not yet. Helena sees it. It's impossible not to. There's something in the girl's face that recalls every forgotten child at the edge of the city, marked by sadness, carrying a silent strength only another survivor of such a night would recognize. Time almost stops. Everything around them seems muted. Helena's hand grips the gate latch. Her fingers tremble, but she lets no one see. Inside her chest, a knot tightens. It's like feeling the weight of the world all over again. Her face hardens, but her eyes burn. For an instant, Helena sees her own son, small, hungry eyes, calling out to her in some old, terrible dream. She draws a slow breath, looks the girl up and down, half disbelieving that this is real. No one comes all the way to this mansion for a piece of bread, she thinks. No child that small would ask like that unless it was a true emergency. Helena fights with herself. She wants to turn her back, order someone else to handle it, pretend she never heard. She's always managed before, always kept up that wall. But right now the silence feels like pain. The grief she sees in those young eyes isn't just hunger, it's almost a reflection. Sofia waits. She doesn't even blink, seems to be holding her breath too, frozen in panic. Her clothes, clinging and filthy, make her seem even smaller. She grips a battered plastic bag as if it's all she has left. Her face, half hidden by hair, is a jumble, fear, humiliation, hope. Her big dark eyes are so worn by pain it hurts just to look at her. At that moment, Helena feels her chest seize in a way it hasn't for ages. A dry, familiar ache she hates to remember. Her son, when he was sick or woke crying at night, looked at her just like this, begging without words, pleading for help. The memory tears at her from inside. She tries to choke down her anger, but it turns into something sour. That sorrow spills over into something else, a desperate urge to disappear, to not exist at this gate. Helena wants to tell Sofia to go, but the words won't come. They stick in her throat. She looks again at that face, thin, pale, steady in a way no one expects from someone so small. The rain comes down harder, drumming a fragile rhythm on the cement, pushing Sofia further into the corner, closer to the cold iron gate. Helena can almost feel those drops chilling the girl's back. She thinks, how did the world come to this? A soaked child begging for bread, looking up as if her entire life depends on a single glance. In the reflection on the glass, Helena notices her own face. It strikes her, how much she keeps everyone out, never letting anyone close, even to help. But now something unfamiliar rises inside her, a bitter heat from her toes to her throat. She knows she could ignore this, but can't. For a moment, all her arrogance melts away. She is just a woman, exactly like that girl, lost, scared, needing something she can't explain. Without realizing, Helena lets go of the latch. She stands frozen there, staring at Sofia. The hush between them isn't just sad, it's a silent plea, almost a wordless pact. Sofia's pain seems older than her years. Helena's eyes carry a grief that never healed. There, at that cold gate, their loneliness meets, and nothing seems enough to fill the emptiness. The wind gusts colder, and inside, Helena is seized by the urge to scream, to run, to vanish, as in the darkest days of morning. But in front of her is a girl asking only for bread, with a courage no adult might have. The world outside keeps moving, but inside these gates, it's as if everything is paused just for this. The rain continues, sharp and thin, clinging to hair, tracking down skin, making everything feel worse. Sofia can barely feel her bare feet anymore. There's dirt between her toes, her wet dress pasted to her thin legs. The huge gate in front of her, rusted along the bottom, looms like an impossible wall. Inside, the elegant woman leans on the grate, trying to keep her face hard, but her eyes are already faltering. The air grows heavy. You can hear the hush, no birds sing. Sometimes only a distant car interrupts it, but time itself seems stopped upon that stretch of sidewalk. Sofia clenches her tiny hands, almost trying to vanish into herself. She blinks hard, swallowing back tears, but she can't contain them now. Her chin quivers. Her chest aches with that deep, nameless kind of hurt. Whatever strength she had to make it this far suddenly vanishes. She tries again, her voice barely above a whisper. Please, ma'am, my little brother. That's when her eyes overflow. Fat tears stream down, mingling with rain across her dirty face. It's not a contained crying. These are soul-deep sobs. The pain of someone who's heard no far too often. She's there, small, shaking, lost, wanting to disappear, and yet needing so desperately to be seen by someone. Anyone. The pain comes in waves. Her body shakes, hair stuck to her cheeks, mouth open in a silent wail that would break any heart. "Please help me," she murmurs, nearly voiceless. And then her knees buckle. She falls on the spot, both hands pressed to the gate, as if she might force her way through it by sheer desperation. Helena is frozen. She wasn't ready for this. She'd thought her heart was stone, after all she'd suffered. But there is something in that crying, in that way of pleading. It is like nothing else. She remembers her own son as a child, his terrified eyes on feverish nights, those times he needed her, and she always knew what to do. Now, without him, there is only silence inside this enormous house. Helena wants to turn away. Her mind screams, "Don't get involved, don't feel, don't hurt." But it doesn't work. Her face changes. Her chin trembles, eyes glistening with tears. She looks at Sofia as if seeing herself in some distant, broken life. And for the first time in years, her throat closes tight. Outside, Sofia is curled at the foot of the gate. Inside, Helena stands paralyzed, trying to hide that she, too, is coming undone. The world seems to disappear. All that's left is pain, raw and shared between them. Miguel, so impossibly small, huddles in his sister's arms like a rain-soaked bird. He looks up at Sofia, cheeks flushed with fever, breathing fast, so weak he can barely sit. He doesn't really understand. All he feels is fear and hunger. He gazes at Helena, but his eyes stick to his sister as he calls softly, "Sofia." In that instant, something shatters. Helena can't hold on any longer. Her lined face melts into an expression nobody there has seen in years. A fat, hot tear rolls down, merging with the cold rain. Not just one, others come, quick and silent, escaping without permission. It is a strange kind of crying for her, who has always forbidden herself to feel. She squeezes her eyes shut for a second, her chest heaving, and all the walls she built since losing her son crumble, if only a little. The girl's suffering is so real, so identical to her own, there is no way to hold back. Not entirely sure what she's doing, Helena steps forward. The gate creaks softly as she pushes. The sound is almost an embrace amid the hush. Helena kneels there, on the wet sidewalk, feeling her wool coat heavy with rain, but pays it no mind. She hasn't knelt for anyone, not even God, in ages, but now, stature means nothing. She comes down to the level of that pain. And then, without warning, she opens her arms and draws Sofia close, a clumsy gesture, as strange to her as breathing again. The embrace is tight, trembling, two bodies sinking into the same grief. Helena's hand rests atop the girl's filthy hair, stroking it with a tenderness she'd long forgotten she possessed. Sofia clings to her, feeling the firmness of the coat, the warmth of skin against her cold cheek. The scent is unfamiliar, expensive perfume, but there is also the scent of comfort. She cries harder now, but it is a weeping of relief, of someone who has finally been seen. The blood in her veins, frozen all this time, feels a little warmer. Outside, time continues, but between them, there is only silence. Helena feels her sobs subside to gulps, then dissolve to a sigh, as if she surrendered everything. Her face is damp, words tangled, but she doesn't let go of Sofia. Her heart beats so loud it nearly echoes. Miguel watches, confused yet sensing something good. He leans into his sister's legs, eyeing the woman. Helena slowly reaches an arm toward him, her face still streaked with tears and rain, inviting the boy to her side. The three remain there, beneath the rain, and for a moment, nobody is a stranger, no one an enemy. Helena touches Sofia's face, awkwardly wiping away the grime and tears, but with a care she hasn't given anyone in forever. There's a look in her eyes of utter disbelief at what's happening, hers and Sofia's, both. There, kneeling, soaked, embraced, something shifts forever. The world outside may stay cold, harsh, full of people peering from afar. But on that sidewalk, because of unexpected tears, two old wounds find each other, and, without realizing it, begin to heal. People start to gather at the gate, across the street, peering out from behind curtains. Some whisper, others point, all with those tight, judgmental eyes. It feels as if no one breathes. The rain slackens, but fat drops still streak down the white wall, dripping onto the mud-stained pavement. The cutting cold makes Sofia shiver from head to toe, her thin dress plastered to her small frame as she holds Miguel gently, trying to keep him pressed close for any scrap of warmth. Helena stands there, unmoving for a moment. Her blonde hair is wild from distress, her eyes now unguarded in their redness. She gazes at the gathering crowd, neighbors, gossip, fear of losing control, but in that moment her gaze is fixed on the two children. She breathes deeply, hesitates, her hands shaking on the gate handle. You can hear the metallic snap of the lock turning, echoing loudly. The gate swings open slowly, heavy, as if the entire mansion resists letting anyone different in. Helena gestures for Sofia, without a single word. Her face is tense, but something cracked inside her. It's not just anger or chill anymore, but a kind of courage tangled with grief. She kneels down clumsily, hoists Miguel into her arms as awkwardly as anyone could, like she's forgotten how to carry a child, but moves forward nonetheless. The little boy lays his small head on her shoulder without protest. Sofia stands frozen, staring at her own dirty, trembling feet. Helena reaches her hand toward her, timidly, as if waiting for Sofia's decision, and for the first time in forever, someone is there, expecting her hand. Come. Stay here, just for tonight, Helena says, her voice struggling not to falter. But every word is heavy, as if some part of her still wishes to retreat, to close the gate, to pretend this isn't her burden. Sofia steps into the garden as if setting foot on another planet. The path feels far too clean, too soft beneath her tired feet. Everything is massive, imposing, the kind of place she'd only seen through a schoolyard fence long ago. The scent of grass, wet flowers, so unlike the smell of the street, mingled with perfume wafting from windows, mixed with the coldness of things never touched by real people. Helena walks in front, head down, Miguel silent in her arms, his cheek resting, eyes shut in exhaustion. Sofia, still afraid, notices Helena's hands, white, manicured, holding her little brother. She can see the fingers trembling, gripping her coat collar, awkward. The gate closes behind them with a thunderclap. Sofia jolts, glances back, half expecting to be trapped, locked up. But Helena keeps moving, climbs the entrance steps slowly, and opens the mansion's enormous, polished door, a door that never felt meant to welcome people like them. Inside, the air is different. There's no wind, no dust, only that peculiar hush broken now and then by a grand clock on the wall. Enormous sofas, soft rugs, oil paintings, everything distant, cold, but painful in its perfection. Sofia hesitates on the entry rug, afraid even to step, as if she might ruin everything just by being. Helena watches her sidelong, senses her discomfort, and sighs again. She carries Miguel to the sofa, lays him down gently, afraid he might break. The boy doesn't protest, just shuts his eyes, breathing fast, seeming almost relieved, as if he's found a harbor, if only for a few minutes. Sofia can barely blink. Her honey-colored eyes roam over everything, the broad staircase, the dimly shimmering chandelier, the closed curtains muffling all sound from outside. Helena settles beside the boy, stiff, trying to hide her own discomfort, as if this scene were a shock to her as well. Outside, the neighbors' voices swell, slip through the walls, mingled with heavy rain. Sofia feels those eyes even without seeing. She can imagine what they say. Why did this woman open the gate? Why are those two inside? For a while, no one says anything. Seconds, maybe minutes, of smothering silence. Only the clocks tick, a sharp sound, refusing anyone peace. Helena wipes her face on her sleeve, trying to hide her tears. She stands next to Sofia, unsure what to say. Her eyes have changed, the harshness gone, just tiredness left. But more than that, it's a look from someone always in control, but now lost, not knowing how to be around a frail, hungry girl in her grand living room. Sofia doesn't know whether to sit, to stand, to thank her, or to apologize for being there. She grips the frayed hem of her dress with both hands, eyes on the rug, waiting, maybe, for a scolding, a punishment, expecting even to be yelled at. She glances quickly at the door, half considering fleeing if anything goes wrong. But Helena simply kneels next to her, slowly, knees aching. She gathers Sofia's cold little hand in both of hers, studying it up close, saying nothing for a time. It's as if those tiny hands remind Helena of something she's lost, or perhaps, a hope long forgotten. Helena whispers, her voice barely a thread. I know it hurts. The words come out ragged, but they're there. Sofia's eyes go wide, startled. Nobody ever says that to a child like her. She doesn't even know if she's allowed to believe it. And in that instant, the mansion's heart beats differently. It's not just the house itself, the warmth of the place, the painting's wealth, or the coldness of the world outside. It's the sense of being seen, really seen, for the first time. Helena breathes deep, stands with effort, and before leaving to fetch something says again, tonight, just tonight, you stay here. Sofia nods slowly, still lost, but hugs her own body tight, hoping to hang on to this moment before it disappears. Outside, the whole world seems pause. Time is suspended, rain turning to mist in the garden, whispers behind walls. But in here, fear and all, a flicker of hope begins to take root, something small, nearly invisible, but stubborn, refusing to die. Miguel opens his eyes slowly, looks at his sister, gives a faint smile. Sofia feels the tears come again, but this time, it's not just pain. It's a strange relief, just to be here, for tonight, on the other side of the gate. The mansion's kitchen feels like another world. There's so much space and so much shine that Sofia hugs Miguel tighter on her lap, as if anything here could vanish in a second. The cold marble floor sends a chill into her bare feet. Rain still drips from her hair. The silence here is unlike the streets, it echoes, almost sacred. Even their breathing seems to resound. Helena leads the way, wordless, just gestures to a chair with a swift flick of her hand. Her face is shuttered, but her eyes settle on Sofia and Miguel in a strange way, as if she feels something but won't let it show. Sofia glances around, uneasy, at all the pretty things in the kitchen. She's afraid to touch anything. She's afraid of everything, really. The smell of bread is overwhelming, real bread, not the stale, hard loaves from the bakery, and her stomach rumbles loud enough to echo. Helena hears it. Sofia looks down, mortified. Helena goes to the cupboard. She pulls out a white plate, sets it on the table with a dry clang. Then she opens the cast-iron oven, withdraws a tray full of golden loaves, still steaming. Using tongs, she sets 2 rolls on Sofia's plate. "Eat," she says softly, her voice rougher, stranger than before. "There's butter, if you want it." Sofia just nods, can't manage to say thank you just yet. Inside, all she wants is to run and gobble it all down, but she only stares at the bread for a few seconds. The aroma fills her, makes her shake. She thinks of Miguel. She sits him up, breaks off a piece, puts it to his lips first, even scared he might choke. It's the first time in days Miguel eats something this soft, this gentle to chew. His eyes open wider, surprised, and he bites hesitantly, like he doesn't believe this is real. Sofia looks back at Helena, torn between suspicion and gratitude. Sofia takes a small bite and nearly weeps. The taste is warm, real. Melted butter, soft dough, so different from street crumbs. She eats quickly, scanning the room, always expecting someone to shout or tell her to leave. She keeps her body hunched in the chair, her feet still cold, always ready to flee if it comes to that. Helena stands at the stove. She lifts a big pot, stirring something inside, slowly, without noise. From the stove drifts the smell of soup, thick with vegetables, a smell that stirs up far-off memories for Sofia, maybe of some long-ago Sunday when her parents were still alive, when they still had a home. Rain drums on outside. You can see the plants swaying past the window. Every clap of thunder makes Miguel curl up even farther. Sofia holds his little hand with all the gentle strength she can manage, not wanting to frighten him, but wanting him to feel that she's here, that he's not alone. Helena places a bowl of soup in front of each of them. She pauses, hesitant, looking Sofia in the eyes. Her chest rises and falls slowly, as if something weighty is pinned right there. Up close, the millionaire's face is beautiful, marked by lines of sadness, exhaustion, and some deeper thing Sofia doesn't know. Helena looks like she wants to say something, but nothing comes. Sofia takes the spoon, glances at her bowl, looks up at Helena again, waiting for permission. Helena just gives a brusque nod, a little impatient, and waits. The first mouthful is so hot it burns, but Sofia bears it. She can't waste this chance. She eats slowly, trying not to choke, spooning some for Miguel. Tears pool in her eyes, but she hides it, focusing on not spilling a drop. Hunger hurts. Helena sits on the other side of the table, watching in silence. There are tears in her eyes, too, though she wipes them quickly, turning away if anyone might notice. She pays attention to Miguel, his weak cough, his pale skin. She watches Sofia, the hurried way she moves, the small gestures of someone used to reprimands. Every now and then, Helena opens her mouth as if to speak, but gives up, returning to her empty plate. The clock ticks dryly on the wall. It's the only sound, besides the rain and the soft rattle of spoons against ceramic. Every time Sofia glances at the door, her chest tightens. She thinks of the neighbors, their glares outside, the sense that all this can't last. Why would someone rich open the door to 2 strangers? Why offer bread, soup, kindness? Sofia doesn't understand. She half believes it's a trick, a mistake about to end at any moment. Even here, eating, her fear won't let go. Her body's ready to run. Her eyes wary, cautious. And deep down, deep down, a sliver of her wants to trust, to believe, to wish this warm kitchen and this table of food could be real, even if only for one night. Helena watches the children and, now and then, wipes her face with her hand. She seems stern, but doubts her own harshness. In her head flicker memories of her son, the accident, the empty house. But now, the chair opposite isn't empty. Sofia and Miguel fill up the kitchen, changing something in the air, though they don't even realize it. Even the soup tastes different now. What once was comforting now chokes. Helena doesn't know if she wants to talk, or if she has the strength. She just observes, forcing herself to stay present, trying to understand the knot in her chest. What is this? Pity? Anger? The urge to send them away so she can be alone again? Or the fear of caring only to lose everything once more? Sofia finishes scraping her bowl. She wipes her mouth on her dirty sleeve. She looks at Helena again, bracing for harsh words, already preparing to get up and slip away with her brother. But Helena says nothing. The three of them sit there, still, each afraid of what comes next. The bread still smells fresh, the rain still falls, and for a moment, just a moment, it's as if the outside world has stopped, and in this vast kitchen, there's no street, no hunger, no loneliness. Only silence remains, and the fear of believing it all might be real. The living room sofa is much too big for Miguel's fragile body. He's there, silent, hollow-eyed, his face yellowish, small hands folded in his lap. The doctor arrives, soaked from the rain, folding her umbrella at the door. Even the sound of raindrops sliding down the window seems loud in the utter silence. Helena can barely breathe. She doesn't know where to put her hands, twisting her rings as she watches the doctor, as if something to hold could keep her from falling apart. Sofia sits next to her brother but doesn't touch him. She's always ready to run, or to shield him. A strange silence hangs, heavy as lead. Only the soft clink of medication bottles from the doctor's bag disturbs the air. The doctor speaks quietly, looking first at Helena, then Sofia, then the boy. "Hi, champ, how are you feeling?" Miguel barely responds. He just blinks slowly, gathering the blanket Helena wrapped him in when she noticed his shivers. Miguel's feet, dirty, covered in tiny sores, barely reach the end of the couch. Even wrapped up, you can see him trying to shrink smaller, trying to forget the belly pain, the hunger, the fear. Helena can't stand to sit still. She walks slowly to the window, looks out just so she doesn't have to see up close what's going on inside. But she hears everything, feels every word stuck in her throat, regretting she hadn't done anything sooner. With each sigh from the doctor, her heart seems to beat faster. Sofia, curled up next to her brother, trembles with fear that the doctor is going to say something terrible. The girl looks on warily, almost wounded, as if she expects at any moment someone will say, "Get out of here, you're in the way." But at the same time, she's on high alert, ready to spring between Miguel and any harm, whether it's a doctor, a millionaire, or one of those thunderstorms that rattles the windows. "He's got a high fever," the doctor murmurs, brushing her hand across the little boy's sweaty forehead. Then she gently pulls back the blanket, examines his belly, listens to his lungs, asks him to breathe deeply. Sofia watches, squeezing her small hands together, choking back tears with her bottom lip pressed hard between her teeth. Is he going to be okay?" comes out in a whisper from the girl's lips, barely loud enough to break the tension in the room. Helena feels her chest tighten painfully at that moment, because she truly sees this child's fear, the fear of losing the only person she has left in the world. The doctor hesitates before answering. Her eyes give her away. She speaks gently, but firmly, directed at Helena, but really almost more for Sofia. "He's very weak. He needs to eat properly, needs plenty of rest, and honestly, he should spend a few days in a hospital. Otherwise, things could get much worse." Helena clutches the edge of the table so hard her knuckles turn white. Her eyes fill with tears. And suddenly, she's flooded with a fear so big, different from anything she's ever felt, heavier even than the silence of nights without her son. It's a new kind of panic, the terror of losing another child, of carrying yet another unbearable grief. Sofia curls up tighter, pulling the blanket up to Miguel's neck. Her eyes dart from the doctor to Helena and, for a second, silently plead for help. Anyone can see that she wishes she could shrink even smaller, maybe hide behind her brother, disappear entirely. But she's there, chin raised, ready to do whatever it takes to protect Miguel. The doctor jots a few notes onto a piece of paper, then talks to Helena in quick bursts. Pharmacy, prescriptions, telling her to buy saline, stomach medicine, vitamins. She says to call if the boy gets any worse. Helena can barely focus. Her gaze is locked onto those two children, especially Sofia, seeing her brother so frail and feeling the whole weight of the world on her shoulders. For a moment, Helena almost says she can't do it, that she doesn't know how to take care even of herself, let alone bear the pain of more children. But Sofia's look, that look, cracked on the inside, won't let her. There's a plea in there that breaks through any wall. A desperate, raw, pure love. Helena swallows hard, tears leaking out before she has any hope of hiding them. The clock in the room ticks loudly in the silence. Miguel gives a little cough, his eyes closing with sleep, face scrunched in pain. Sofia runs her hand through his hair, her thin fingers trembling with cold and fear. She doesn't ask for anything, just watches, as if trying to store away any scrap of kindness or protection. The doctor finishes her exam and softly touches Sofia's shoulder, gentle, as if she understands all the weight wrapped up in her protection. "You've been very brave, you know," she whispers. The girl just nods, wanting to cry but refusing to let a single tear fall, doing everything to not scare Miguel. Helena walks the doctor to the door, shaking her head, unable to find any words at all. Just a hoarse, almost silent thank you. Outside, the rain gets heavier, the noise filling the house and settling in with the despair left behind. When Helena returns, she sinks slowly to the floor at the far end of the couch. She looks again at Sofia and Miguel and feels a crushing guilt, not just for them, but for every time she ignored someone knocking at her door. Now, it's too late to hide behind those high walls or cold excuses. Sofia senses Helena's sadness, but doesn't understand everything. She sees an adult woman, well-dressed, famous, powerful, crying. And somehow, that gives her a different sort of fear. If even she, with everything, is crying, then the world must be even more broken than Sofia imagined. The three of them sit there in silence, listening to the clock, the rain, and Miguel's labored breathing. It isn't much, but for the first time since she entered that house, Sofia feels a flicker of hope mixed with a heavy dose of doubt. Maybe, just maybe, someone really will help. And Helena stays there, on her knees, soul turned inside out, terrified of loss all over again. The living room TV is still on, but nobody's watching. That heavy silence fills the space, broken only now and then by the relentless drumming of rain. The ticking of the clock on the wall seems louder than anything. Miguel sleeps on the couch, his thin arms barely visible under the blanket, his face marked by fever and exhaustion. He breathes slowly, like even that is a challenge. His hair sticks to his forehead, his tiny feet poking out from under the blanket. Sofia, sitting beside him, holds her brother's little hand, her eyes lost somewhere no one else can reach. Helena stands at the door for a while, watching the two of them. It's as if she wants to memorize the scene, afraid that if she blinks, it might vanish. But suddenly, something twists painfully inside her. She turns and slips away down the hall. She doesn't want anyone to see her face like this. The hallway is dark, as always. Helena moves slowly, feeling the cold floor even through her slippers. She passes a wall full of photos, all of the same boy, golden curls, wide smile, eyes full of life. Her son. She stops in front of a picture of him as a little kid, wearing a soccer jersey, knees scraped from his last game. Helena reaches out, drawing her finger slowly across the dusty glass. A longing so deep it leaves a bitter taste in her mouth. Her eyes burn with tears, but she just stands there, breathing, fighting to swallow her cry like she always does. This time she can't. In the dark of her bedroom, she sits on the edge of the bed and grabs the photo frame that always sits on her nightstand. That old picture of her son at his 10th birthday, his face smeared with cake, his father already gone by then. Now it's just her left behind. In that too big room, the cold bed, silence everywhere she turns. She clutches the photo to her chest, holds it like she could somehow pull her child back inside her. The tears come first as a whisper, then grow, her whole body shaking. Helena hasn't sobbed like this since the funeral. Everyone said she was strong, that she'd get through it. But no one knew the hole it left behind. She remembers the last hug, the last words spoken. "Will you take care of me, Mom?" he'd asked, half joking, half serious, and she told him he was everything to her. Now what? No one left to ask for comfort, no footsteps running through the house. Just her and shadows. With her free hand, Helena wipes her face, but tears keep coming. She looks around, the curtains closed, the old furniture, her son's shoes sitting by the wall, untouched for years. Helena never found the courage to let any of it go. She'd rather suffer than risk forgetting. On the wall, a clock circles endlessly, and time in that house never seems to move. She wonders if the emptiness will ever be filled. If it's normal to miss someone so much it's a physical ache. Helena knows she's rich, knows she could buy anything except one more minute with her son. That only makes it crueler. She thinks, quietly, that not even a mansion is big enough to hold so much loneliness. The luxury means nothing anymore. The marble, the golden lights, the packed wardrobes. None of it is worth anything, not now. Who is all this for? She whispers, the knot tightening in her throat. Only in the solitude of her bedroom does she let herself be weak. Only here does she drop the act of the unshakable millionaire, an act other people made up for her. It takes a long time before she manages to stand again. Her legs are heavy, her head throbs. She moves down the hallway and stops in front of her son's room, taking a deep breath before pushing open the door. A thin band of light slips in through the window. The room is like a museum, scattered toys, untouched for years. His shirt hanging in the closet, the smell of childhood mixed with longing. She sits in the chair beside the bed, hugging the photo frame. Her body bent under the weight of grief. She tries to remember the sound of her son's laughter, the kind that filled the house. It's one of the few things she wishes she could hear again. Nobody has laughed like that in here for a long time. Suddenly, the silence feels heavier than ever. Helena closes her eyes and sees flashes of the fire, the chaos, voices yelling over the radio. She thinks of Sofia's parents, the pain of that little girl, already so marked by loss. How much unfairness can one world hold? She thinks of Miguel, his fragile body, his eyes silently begging for help. She sees Sofia's face, hard and frightened, trying to be brave for her brother. It's impossible not to remember her own pain, her lost child, her own childhood. The past burns like embers. An old guilt rises inside Helena, alongside a wave of longing to protect those two children in a way she'd never managed to protect her own son from a cruel fate. For the first time in many years, she wonders, does love really never end? Can you start anew, even with so many scars? Even with all her anger at the world and her fear of attachment, something inside her wants to fight. Helena sits alone, crying again. But deep down, she realizes there might still be a scrap of hope hidden in that battered heart. The longing hasn't left, but maybe, just maybe, it's not the only thing living inside her anymore. In the gray morning sky, the rain refuses to let up. The mansion's gate still smells of cold, heavy water, and inside, the silence is thicker than usual. But it isn't the same silence as before, not emptiness, but tension, stuffed with muffled voices from outside, like a thundercloud ready to burst. Helena doesn't even need to open the curtains to know something's changed on the street. She can hear hurried footsteps passing on the sidewalks, whispers drifting through the gates, a strange buzz drawing closer to her door. Between phone calls, her face grows more closed off with each ring. Her hands tremble a little as she walks down the hallway, gripping her phone too tightly. Every ring, triumph, is a jolt, a fresh anxiety. On the caller ID, distant cousins, a nervous aunt, even a family lawyer. Their voices are full of judgment, everyone telling her how she should be more sensible. Helena, have you lost your mind? 2 street kids in your mansion. Be careful. This is going to end badly. Think of your son, what he would think of all this. She tries to breathe deeply but feels her chest constricting, like there's an invisible rope pulling her back every time she looks toward the room where Sofia and Miguel are. It isn't easy to listen to all that. Words like danger, problem, scandal, they'll rob you, don't do this, all piling up in her head like stones thrown down a well. Even the maid, Donna Lourdes, comes to speak quietly in the kitchen, absent-mindedly stirring an empty pot. Donna Helena, neighbor Maria just called me over at the gate, said the police might come. Helena's face goes pale. She imagines a police car, flashing lights on the upscale street, people gossiping at their windows. She can feel everyone's eyes, all wanting to see how far she's willing to go. In the living room, Sofia sits huddled up, already braced to be thrown out again. Her eyes are lost, her small hands clutching a piece of bread like it's the most precious thing in the world. Miguel lies sleepy and weak on the couch, hardly aware of the pressure from outside. But Sofia feels it. She sees the ugly faces out there, hears the gossip leaking through the walls. When she finally speaks, her voice is barely a whisper. Are you going to throw us out? Helena takes a while to answer. Her face looks tired, but there's a different gleam in her eyes. Instead of anger, it's sadness mixed with frustration at the world. She kneels slowly in front of Sofia, despite her aching back, lowering herself to the girl's level. She studies that small face, the dirty cheeks, hair plastered from rain and sweat, and says nothing, just places her hand gently on Sofia's shoulder. That simple touch says everything words can't. Fear, a longing to protect, the ache of her own lost child, and anger at the whole nosy neighborhood. Helena feels tears rising but breathes deep, fighting to hold them back. She won't cry in front of these children, not again. The phone rings again. Helena gets up, wipes her face quickly, and answers, already weary just from the sound. Her sister's hard voice on the other end. Helena, have you lost it? Imagine if something happens in that house. Everyone's talking. She closes her eyes for a moment, her free hand digging into her palm. Another message pings in on WhatsApp. A cousin sends a screenshot from the condo's group chat. Anyone know what that woman's doing? This isn't a place for beggars. Helena looks at her phone and shakes her head, bitter. It's not just family, it's the whole neighborhood. People who used to smile at her on the street now call her irresponsible and crazy for opening her door to people with nothing. For a second, she feels smaller than ever. Back in the living room, she moves to the window and pulls aside a corner of the curtain. She spots Donna Margarita, the oldest neighbor, whispering with a young man, both of them pointing at the house. Others walk slowly past the sidewalk, gawking. Helena feels her breath grow heavy again, as if the air is thickening. By instinct, she glances at Sofia and Miguel. She thinks of everything they've already heard: threats, insults, people making jokes, people denying them bread. This house should be the safest place in the world, but now it's the target of every kind of judgment. Still, she doesn't send Sofia away. She doesn't even hesitate. She puts down her phone, leaves it on the cushions, and sits facing the children, very slowly. Her gaze is stern, but there's an uncomfortable tenderness there, like someone relearning how to be kind. She takes Sofia's hand. She's not trembling anymore. The knot in her stomach has turned into something else. A stubborn courage. I'm not going to send you away, okay? Sofia just blinks slowly. She doesn't seem to quite believe it yet. The bread stall's in her hand, tears welling up in her eyes, but she holds them in. Outside, the voices swell. People complaining, cars honking as they creep by the gate. Helena feels her heart racing, but refuses to take her eyes off the children. She thinks of her son, wonders if he would have the courage to do the same. Would he have welcomed strange children while the whole world turned their backs? The thought tugs at her, brings the boy's face to mind, his childhood smile, and a deep ache in her chest. She gently smooths Miguel's back, adjusting him to make him more comfortable on the couch. She feels that every small gesture is like a shield against everything bad outside. Even with the whole world telling her to give up, she won't back down. Not this time. She can hear the rain tapping on the window, cold and sharp. But inside that room, there's a different calm. For a few minutes, it feels like there's only the three of them: Sofia, Miguel, and Helena, huddled together, an improvised family in the middle of chaos. For that instant, the judgments, the threats, the whispers all fade into the background. What really matters is the safe warmth of silence, the feeling of Sofia's hand squeezing back, that stubborn hope, surviving even when everything says there's no reason to believe. The living room clock reads 3 in the morning, but Helena doesn't even think about sleeping. The muffled ticking of the hands fills the heavy silence of the mansion. Everything inside seems bigger at this hour: the couch, the chandelier, the cold walls. Helena sits on the edge of the armchair, alone, staring down the dim corridor. She's wrapped herself in a shawl, clutching it to her chest, shivering more from anxiety than cold, but the house is freezing. Through the crack in the guest room door, she sees the scene. Sofia, her thin legs curled up tight, sleeps hugging Miguel as if she can shield him from the entire world. A thin blanket covers them both, but they look tiny in that huge bed. Sofia's face is calm, just for a second, but every now and then she groans softly, squeezing her brother as if, even in her sleep, she's still afraid of the dark, the fire, the street, hunger. Helena buries her face in her hands. Her eyes burn. She's not even sure if it's exhaustion or the growing urge to cry again. Outside, a cold wind scratches at the windows. She can hear water dripping in the pipes, as if even the old, lonely house is weeping with her. She shuts her eyes, trying to convince herself this is just for a day, just one night, just an exception. Only, her chest tightens in a new way every time she sees those two sleeping, clinging to each other like one is the other's whole life. Being alone was always easier. No responsibilities, no sharing her pain, no risk of losing all over again. That's how Helena survived after her son's death, building a wall around her heart, pushing away any feeling, any memory that could hurt her again. Only now, there are these two, so defenseless, so quiet. She thinks of the neighbors' comments, the tension, the threats, people judging what they don't understand. She picks up her phone from the nightstand, sees missed calls in the middle of the night. More family wanting to know what possessed her to bring street children into the Monteleone house. Helena sighs, hating that surname that only weighs her down. But she forces herself to remember she was the one who went out there, the one who opened the gate, the one who looked Sofia in the eye and decided, maybe without even realizing it, to give her a chance. She tries to harden her heart again. Getting attached is asking for pain, she reminds herself. What if something happens? If Miguel's condition worsens, if Sofia vanishes into the night, if the police show up and whisk them away to nothing? She imagines her son's funeral, the pain, the loneliness, the emptiness of having no one left to wish good night. Could she survive another loss? Is it fair? Maybe it's easier to push the children away now, before things get serious. Her palm sweats, and Helena finds herself at the doorstep of their room. She doesn't go in, just leans against the frame, her body bent, as if needing to shield herself from what she sees. Sofia shifts in her sleep. Miguel coughs softly, that raspy sound of a heavy chest, and that cough cuts right through Helena like a knife. Suddenly, it's not the voices of the neighbors echoing in her head. It's Sofia's frail voice, quietly asking for bread, saying, "My brother's starving." A knot tighter than anything grips Helena's chest. For the first time in years, she can't suppress it. They're not just street kids, not just inconvenient guests. They're two lives, two smiles, two futures that might depend on her to even exist. And she realizes something, though she's afraid to put it into words. The instinct to protect is growing inside her, as unstoppable as the grief she tried to wall off. She returns to the living room, restless. She paces from wall to wall, brushing her hand along pictures and frames, searching for a trace of warmth that's been gone so long. Her son's room is locked, old photos hidden beneath sheets, as if she could smother her memories. Helena stands at the locked door, suddenly yearning to open it, to change everything, but afraid of what that impulse might mean. Sofia's words echo in her mind, now tangled with her own son's voice, years ago, begging for comfort after a nightmare. Time drags. Streetlight stripes fall through the windows. At the end of the corridor, it's always dark, where she's always hidden her sadness, but there's no use pretending anymore that it will disappear if she ignores it. The urge to send the children away, to retreat into her old pain and quiet, seems weaker with every passing minute. The fear of loss is huge, but greater still is the knowledge that if she lets Sofia and Miguel go, she'll be haunted forever by the image of them disappearing into the rain, hungry, cold. That, she thinks, would be even more unbearable than grief. Helena stops, breathes deep, closes her eyes and wonders, what would her son say? He, who was so generous, always believed the world could be good, always said you can't cure sadness by being alone. A tear falls, and she doesn't brush it away. Suddenly, in the hush of the early morning, something in her knows exactly what she must do. No more abandoning anyone. No more rejecting love. No more hiding. Still crying, she returns to the guest room, leans her head on the door and listens to the small, steady breathing of the children. Right there, in a barely whispered promise, so no one can hear, tomorrow, she'll face everyone, even herself. Whatever it takes, they're staying. Maybe, for the first time in years, Helena feels her heart beating a little differently. Out of pain and fear, a faint hope is being born, strong enough to make her stand. And that night, in a moment that belongs only to them, Helena makes the impossible choice. This time, she'll love, even if it hurts. Even knowing the risk. She decides, truly, that no one will be thrown out, not while she's alive. And for the first time, a quiet kind of strength fills the house. Even the ticking clock seems less bothersome. The wind dies down outside, slowly. And even though the sky stays gray, Helena knows something inside has changed forever. The morning dawns gray and heavy, as if the sky itself woke up tired. A thin drizzle never lets up, soaking the gate, the grass, even muting the birds outside. The clock hasn't even struck 9, but Helena can already hear the stirrings of people all around the neighborhood. Whispered voices from the sidewalks. Eyes peering through windows. Everyone wants to know, who would have thought, Dona Helena's house, always so closed off, now has children inside? Inside, Sofia's heart pounds. She's never held a hand as soft and steady as Helena's. Helena's hand trembles, too, but not from cold. It's as if every finger intertwined with that small, girl's hand is pulling up old memories. Helena's face is paler than usual, but her eyes look like someone who's just come to terms with her own past. In the hallway, the sound of shoes mixes with raindrops outside. Well-dressed people, expensive perfume, furrowed brows, family, neighbors, acquaintances. Lots of people whispering, exchanging glances, but no one brave enough to say anything to her face. Some don't even bother to hide their disappointment. Others are there only to witness the scandal firsthand. Sofia glances nervously at them all, squeezing Helena's hand tighter and tighter. Her cheeks are red, her forehead tense. She doesn't fully understand what's going on, but she feels the weight, shame, fear of being thrown out once more. But through that tight grip, Helena passes her something different, calm certainty. A promise, stay here, it's all right. When they reach the gate, Helena stops. The drizzle beads on her face, slicking gray hair to her brow. She breathes deep, takes a while to find her voice. Her eyes are brimming, but this time, it's not just sadness. It's resolve. She climbs a step and faces the crowd, still holding Sofia's hand. On the other side, Miguel watches, quietly munching his bread, his eyes wide in fear. A heavy silence settles over everyone. Even the wind seems to pause. In the beginning, Helena spoke softly, almost like she was talking to herself. She said she knew what everyone was thinking, that she'd heard it all, the whispers, the contempt, the warnings from people saying it was madness to open her home to two kids from the street. She said she understood their fear of what's different, their fear of pain, and that for years, she herself had closed herself off out of fear. Little by little, her voice grew stronger. She glanced at Sofia, then at the crowd. She said, with a steadiness almost no one had ever heard from her, "These children will stay. Not just today, but for as long as they want, as long as they need." The crowd grew restless, eyes wide with shock. An older woman, a distant cousin, tried to cut her off, saying it was dangerous, that the whole city would talk, that reputation wasn't built that way. But Helena didn't even flinch. She squeezed Sofia's hand tighter. Her face set with determination. Her voice shook as she told them that losing a child had left a hollow in her chest, that her house had turned to nothing but emptiness. She said the pain was so great she thought she'd never feel anything again. But then that little girl, showing up soaked to the bone and beaten, asking for bread, had stirred a corner of her heart she thought was long dead. She spoke of Miguel, so small, with eyes dulled by hunger, and how it was impossible to look at him and not remember her own son. She confessed she'd spent the night sitting, just listening to the two of them breathe, and decided she wouldn't run away anymore. That maybe, in the middle of this disaster, she'd found a way to save herself too. An older neighbor mustered his courage and called out, "And what about when food goes missing? When money disappears from the house? Those kids aren't one of us, don't Helena?" She turned to him, eyes brimming but voice like steel. "If something's ever lacking here, it'll be lacking for everyone together. And if you want to talk about family, learn what compassion is first." The shock was felt all around. Some shook their heads in disbelief. A great aunt wept quietly, whether from shame or emotion, no one could say. Others tried to stifle a laugh, sure it was only a fit of temporary insanity. Sofia shrank back, but Helena pulled her in close, pressed the girl against her chest. She spoke for the whole neighborhood to hear. "These kids have a home now. And I'm not taking any arguments." Somewhere in the crowd, someone muttered shame, while another whispered, "So brave." And then, off to the side, Miguel, holding his little piece of bread, dared to smile. Through the glass of the door, you could catch a flash of hope and fear all tangled on his face. Helena trembled, tears threatening again, but she took a deep breath. She wasn't the kind of woman who ran away anymore. She warned them. She'd look after the children, no matter who it hurt. And if needed, she'd stand up to everyone again and again, every single day. Because now she understood, love isn't meant to be hidden, it's meant to be lived. And family isn't chosen by blood, but by what's put on the table, by an embrace after a nightmare, by bread shared on a cold night. The rain kept falling, washing away certainties. Outside, no one really knew what to do. Some drifted off, some stayed rooted in place, struggling to make sense of it all. But inside that open gate, something much bigger was beginning. For the first time, Sofia really felt, just maybe, the world still had a place for her. And Helena, though exhausted and frightened, knew she'd chosen the right side. The mansion's gate stands open, rare in a neighborhood where everything's always locked up tight, out of habit or fear. On the front lawn, a crowd presses in, whispering, servants sneaking out for a closer look, neighbors in pajamas, curious passers-by pausing on the sidewalk to take it all in. The air is thick with anticipation, those strange moments when everyone holds their breath waiting for something important to happen. Helena doesn't rush. She walks slowly down the stone path, each step heavy, as if she can feel the weight of every person watching her pressing on her heart. There's a small box in her right hand. Her skin looks pale, her eyes sunken, but there's a different lightness in her, somewhere between longing and fear. Sofia stands by her side, hair a tangled mess, her tiny hand stuffed deep in her sweater pocket, like she's longing to hold on to someone but doesn't quite know if she's allowed. Miguel clings to her back, arms wound tight, squinting in the sunlight, trying to figure out why they're here with so many eyes upon them. Helena pauses right at the gate, scanning the crowd. Silence presses down again, broken only by a lone, lost bird trying to brighten the morning. Neighbors dart glances at each other, judgment ready, but their faces show curiosity too, some wary, some clearly moved. Helena turns to Sofia, and the girl looks back at her like a startled animal, yet there's hope there, waiting for anything at all. Punishment, praise, a hug. Helena's voice doesn't shake, but it carries fatigue and a kind of bravery that seems to surprise even her. I want to say something to all of you, she begins, looking more at the children than the others, that for a long time, this house was just walls. Brick, a tall gate, closed windows. I thought I'd lost it all. My faith, my energy, my son. But these two children, she pauses, breathes deep, her voice failing for the first time, they brought back a feeling I never thought I'd find again. Sofia squeezes her eyes shut, desperate to hold on to every word. Miguel fidgets with the hem of his shirt, breathing fast. Helena slowly opens the box. Inside, a ring of keys glints in the sunlight. Not just for the gate, but the garden lock, the main door, the back room. The keys to everything. This house was mine, Helena goes on, voice softer now, but it never really was a home. Today, I want it to be. I want it to belong to you too. A murmur rises. Some hide their mouths in disbelief. Helena's relatives exchange looks, angry and stunned, and Uncle starts to protest under his breath, but no one pays attention because Sofia's crying, a raw, voiceless sob. She buries her face in her hands, curls into herself, as if she can't quite believe it. Helena kneels down, comes close, and holds out the keys. She offers them slowly, waiting for Sofia to choose. Sofia opens tear-soaked eyes, searching Helena's face for some trick, some lie. But all she finds is an exhausted woman, eyes shining, who truly wants her to be happy. Miguel rests his cheek on his sister's shoulder, a shy smile on his face, so different from the hollow-eyed boy he'd been, a trace of hope and color in his cheeks. He tries to grab his sister's hand, as if to encourage her. Helena takes the children's dirty hands gently, as if they're the world's most precious things. And right there, in front of everyone, she lets herself cry too, unashamed. You brought my life back to me. You taught me what love means again. I'm no longer alone, and neither are you. Now we're family. Silence settles, this time a good silence. You can see Mrs. Lord, the neighborhood gossip, furtively wiping away a tear. Even the security guard seems emotional, biting his lip to keep from crying. Sofia throws her arms around Helena, sobbing quietly, finally letting herself believe that this is real, that she and Miguel truly have a place now. Miguel buries himself in the hug, eyes shut, grinning wide, still not sure he understands, but feeling the warmth, the sin of home. Helena clings to them both, squeezing the keys, letting her feelings settle in right there, in the middle of the crowd, unafraid. The looks of judgment don't matter anymore. Nothing matters but what she feels at that moment, a kind of painful happiness, the relief of breathing again after years submerged in grief. All you can hear is Sofia's tearful joy and Miguel's sweet giggle. Somewhere in the back, someone starts clapping quietly at first, then louder, until soon everyone's applauding, even those who don't quite get it, even those who once judged and gossiped. Helena smiles, truly, for the first time in ages. The sunlight touches her face, and that huge gate, once so intimidating, now just looks like an entryway to something new, a painful beginning, but one filled with hope. As she walks back inside, hand in hand with Sofia and Miguel, the gate stays open behind them. The air fills with the sound of light footsteps, shy laughter, children's voices. Where there had only been loneliness, love has taken up residence. They say an empty house has a special sort of aching silence. Anyone who'd set foot in Helena's mansion before would have felt it. A hollow echo in the hallways, the smell of aged furniture, the faded perfume kept for years in closed drawers. Photos lined the walls, each one telling stories of absence, a son's frozen smile, never to return. But now, everything is different. It hardly seems like the same place. The gate no longer creaks just with rust when it opens. These days, children's laughter slips through window panes, the sound of little feet running across the marble nearly lost in the thick carpet of the living room. On the main wall, the most beautiful thing isn't even the golden frame of the boy in his suit. It's the mix. Helena, smiling the way no one ever saw before, stands beside Sofia, Miguel in her arms. There are photos of them in the kitchen dusted in flour. Others, in pajamas on the couch, laughing at something no one else could ever understand. Sofia doesn't move like someone terrified of being thrown out any second. She still looks over her shoulder sometimes, unsure it's truly hers. But now, when Helena calls from the kitchen to come help with lunch, she really smiles, eyes bright. She runs, barefoot, not caring if her feet are dirty. Helena's told her again and again that, here, no one scolds over a rug. Miguel, the little boy who used to be all fever and shadows, now fills the house with noise. He doesn't talk much, but when he laughs there's a dimple in his cheek that makes Helena laugh too, even if she's lost in thought, washing dishes or sorting through those endless unpaid bills. He's mastered hide-and-seek in the most unlikely spots, under the old desk, behind the thick study curtains. Even the family's old dog, who barely moved before, now follows Miguel around the house, tail wagging. At first, no one really knew how to act. Helena, for instance, sometimes she'd freeze when she saw Sofia hugging a forgotten pillow or taking a cookie from the cupboard without asking. There was a voice in her head that kept screaming, "Careful, don't get attached." But as days passed, small gestures became routine. Helena realized the more she tried to keep her distance, the more she wanted to draw closer. One night, Sofia appeared at Helena's bedroom door, her hair a wild mess from sleep, eyes wide with fear. "I had a nightmare." Helena hesitated. For years she'd slept alone in that huge room, making peace with her own pain. But that night, she simply lifted the covers in silence, waiting for the girl to slip in beside her. That tiny, warm embrace felt like it mended a crack no one had ever really seen. Gradually, the old scars in the house faded into little things. The broken vase got paper flowers made by Sofia. The notice board turned into a gallery of Miguel's drawings, bright scribbles of the mansion with a massive sun, little people at the windows, all smiling, colored in with pencil. The cook, who had thought about quitting because she couldn't take all the sadness, now bakes bread almost every day, just to see Miguel dance with delight at the smell. Helena still keeps her son's memories. Some things can't be forgotten. Some days, she stands before that old photo, eyes wet, gripping a wedding ring that never left its drawer after the accident. But now, when the pain flares up, there's always laughter, a spoon clattering, or "Aunt Helena, come play," pulling her back. In the garden, toys sprawl across the grass, and the earth is dug up where there was once only neat rows of catalog-perfect roses. Sofia built a cardboard house for Miguel and decorated it with ribbons she found at the bottom of a drawer. Helena watches from the window and sometimes catches herself crying with happiness. To cry with joy, something she thought she'd forgotten how to do. Her face has changed, the worried lines now softened by new ones, smiles, warmth, life beginning again. The neighborhood, once watching from a distance, now sees the mansion differently. Some neighbors still wrinkle their noses, but no one dares interfere anymore. Times have changed. Every now and again someone leaves clothes, a toy, or a homemade treat at the gate, without even ringing the bell. In the late afternoons, the house fills with the smell of warm chocolate, voices telling stories, golden light filtering through the curtains. No one talks about the old hunger, or the fire that hid in Sofia and Miguel's past. No one pretends the losses never happened, either. Helena learned that longing never leaves. But she also learned there's room for joy, for comfort, for a future. And maybe the most beautiful thing is realizing that those walls, once steeped in solitude and fear, now shelter a family. A family made in the most unlikely way. Old and new photos side by side. The living room, once an altar to sorrow, now a place for hugs, for silly jokes, for hope putting down roots. Every night before bed, Sofia holds Helena's hand like it's her anchor. And for the first time in so many years, Helena knows she's exactly where she belongs. When the lights go out, there are no more shadows alone, just the sound of easy breathing, the promise of good days to come. And in every corner of the house, proof that compassion really can save and reinvent any life.